Standing here, I can't help but admire those incredible 10 women and all the women who previously have been honored by JWI as Women to Watch. I am touched that in an event full of women accomplished in both the business world and in the nonprofit sector, you recognize the importance of having me speak about a life-changing experience that no one should have to live through. Where or how do I begin to describe a horrific story of struggle and survival in the few minutes allotted this afternoon? I began my adult life with the same drive and determination that many of you in this room have exhibited. I graduated from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, went on to law school, and earned an LLM in taxation. Upon graduation, I joined Shell Oil Company in Houston, Texas. After 5 years, General Motors recruited me to their tax department, where I traveled and spent time working on property tax appeals. Then life got in the way, and the rest is history. I met and married my ex-husband in 1988. It was a whirlwind romance where I was wined and dined, sent the most exquisite roses, and received fabulous gifts. My ex-husband, a successful Jewish doctor, was a miracle worker to his patients. To me, he was a manipulator, controller, enraged psychopath, otherwise strikingly similar to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Yet I lived in a beautiful home with all the trappings. We had a timeshare in the south of France, vacationed in St. Thomas twice a year, and had a summer place on Round Lake in Charlevoix, Michigan. To everyone else, our life was enviable. To me, it was a living nightmare. I remember the first time I was physically assaulted. It was on a Sunday morning, and I was about 8 weeks pregnant. I had taken our dog with me out to get bagels. The weather was snowy. I had a flat tire. I waited for service. When I opened the door to the condo, he punched me in the nose. Bleeding, I just stood there stunned. Who was this monster, and why would he punch me in the nose? People in love do not act like this. People who are educated do not do this. Jewish people, for certain, would never do this. And yet, here I am, a survivor, and I was the victim of an educated, successful Jewish doctor who indeed did do this. He apologized the next day and bought me a magnificent piece of jewelry. And I stayed. The first time is a surprise. Every other time, I was his punching bag just waiting for it. I was lucky. The physical scars disappeared and healed. The emotional scars I still carry with me. I tried desperately to cover up what was happening behind closed doors. I couldn't share my story with family or friends. I thought things would change, and I didn't want others to look at him negatively. I wanted him to be the perfect Jewish doctor that everyone saw him as. So I covered up the black eyes, black and blue marks that laced my body, and the bruises that seemed to be coming more frequently than one can imagine. It was a lonely existence, and I was in my own living hell, curling up into a shadow of the person that I had been earlier in life. The smiles on my face disappeared, and laughter just wasn't anything I experienced anymore. In May of 1995, I had a beautiful 7-week-old daughter, Vanessa, who happens to be here, cradled in my arms in our condo in Charlevoix, Michigan. I had a 4-year-old son, Max, and a 5-year-old daughter, Hannah, seated on each side of me, and my mother, a Holocaust survivor, standing behind. My ex lost all control and punched me in front of everyone. Bleeding and barefoot, I grabbed the keys off the kitchen counter, left the kids with my mom, and went to the hospital. I didn't lie or make up stories. This time, I wasn't protecting the monster. No, my only purpose was to protect my kids and document his abuse. When I walked into the hospital and told my story, the Charlevoix police were immediately called in, and it was out of my hands. Yet, 24 hours later, I was the one who picked him up from prison. Why, you may wonder? I didn't have a plan yet. Where would I go? How would I support myself? How would I take care of 3 children under the age of 5? I had stopped working due to his coaxing that it was better for me to be at home than out in the workforce. I no longer had access to funds to support myself. He controlled every penny that I spent. He constantly told me that I was stupid and fat. Emotionally, I was a wreck, but I needed the summer to put a plan in action. Throughout the summer, the beatings became more frequent. Dishes were thrown and broken when meals weren't up to par. When I was outside playing with the kids, raw eggs were thrown at me in plain view of neighbors. I was raped, and then cold quarts of water from the refrigerator were poured all over my shivering body. It wasn't until after breakfast following Yom Kippur 1995 that I knew my departure would be imminent. We had broken the fast, and my mother decided to stay with us overnight. He had been very confrontational. I was frightened. I knew he had a loaded gun in the house. I went to sleep in my daughter Hannah's bedroom with her and my mom. I knew I would be protected. Every 2 minutes, he would call from the downstairs phone to the upstairs phone. "You up? Just checking on you." It was like dial M for murder. I was terrified. Then he came banging on the door. He ordered me into our bedroom. I went and slept on the corner of the bed. Shaking, I prayed to God to let us please survive the night. In the morning, he left for work. My mom left. The kids were picked up for school. The phone rang and he said, "You know, I beat the shit out of you and you just don't get it." I hung up the phone and I said, "I just got it." My mom called and asked what I was doing. I said, "I'm putting things in garbage bags and leaving." She said, "It's been 50 years since I lived in hiding. I'm going with you." Where and how was another story. I had spoken with an attorney once earlier. Unbeknownst to me, she had received phone calls from attorneys around town that I knew who told her that if she didn't get me out of town, I wouldn't live to see the next week. Her mission was to get me the necessary papers so I could leave with the kids. Everyone I knew was terrified of him. People didn't want to get involved or let us stay with them overnight. Finally, my mom's friend's husband, a 75-year-old man, rented a van and drove us to Chicago in the middle of the night. From there, we flew to Los Angeles. When we arrived, we had found that my girlfriend's family had been threatened in Los Angeles, so we could not stay there. We turned around, flew to San Francisco, and began planning where I could stay safely for the next year. We ended up in Tucson. We knew no one, but there was a day school for my daughter, a preschool for my son, and a place that we could wear the only clothes we had, shorts and t-shirts. The Jewish community embraced us with open arms. But we were found. He hired a private investigator. He was fined $1,500 each time when we attempted to reach us. I flew home with the kids every 6 weeks so that they could have supervised visits with him. He still had control of my life. I knew that if I stayed in Tucson permanently, that eventually I would have to allow my kids to fly back and stay with him over vacations. I could never accept that, so I decided it would be best if I moved back to Detroit. At the end of the school year, that is what happened. The kids had supervised visits for 5 years. He fought with the guardian ad litem and fired 5 of them, as well as physically assaulting one of the supervisors when they were out on a visit. As a matter of fact, he lost his medical license and has never been reinstated. This was a Jewish doctor that had the busiest family practice in Rochester Hills, Michigan. He left the state for a while, but I understand he eventually moved back. This August, I was in the bagel factory, and when I turned to my right, he was standing right next to me. That was the first time that I had seen him alone since I walked out the door on October 5th, 1995. This year, we celebrated our Sweet 16. My kids send text messages out every October 5th saying, "Thanks, Mom, for giving us our lives." And my only thought when I read that text is, "You are the ones that gave me the courage to travel cross country and start life anew. You are my lives, and I am forever grateful to you." I am remarried to an incredible man. We celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and we always thank my ex, because if he hadn't been the person he was, then I would never have met Steve. I now have a fulfilling career as an endowment specialist at the Jewish Federation in Metropolitan Detroit. Life is ever changing. My story has so many more twists and turns as you can imagine. I know how lucky I am. I know that most people don't leave without looking back. I never looked back. But I also know that I had a career in the financial capability to take care of my kids. The work that JWI does is so important in making our voices heard. We, the victims, are ashamed and do not speak out about what is going on behind closed doors. JWI is our voice. As a survivor, I can't praise JWI enough for the work that they do to help those whose voices cannot be heard. Thank you for having me speak this afternoon. Mazel tov to all of the honorees. I am proud to be amongst such an incredible group of women.